Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this amazing summit, wherever you are in the world. And before I crack on, because I'm so excited, I'm just going to slow myself down a bit. I want to say a huge shout out to Natalia Nicholson, the visionary behind the reason that we're all here today. And when you think about it, she had a dream, right? Which was a big dream, a powerful dream. And a lot of people probably would have said to her, that's too much. You're never going to pull this off. And here we are today because this woman has courage. She had determination, she had discipline, and she was dedicated to making sure this happened, to creating a space for all of us. So Natalia, thank you so, so much. And as for me, my name is Akua, and wow, there is a story behind that name, which I will share shortly. But I'm really here to take you on a journey of unbecoming. And that journey really is all about the reason why I'm here today. I feel like I have become or unbecome the woman I was to become the woman I am today is become of that journey of unbecoming. And I really want to share that with so many women. It's such a powerful journey to embark on. And today's masterclass really is about the art of unbecoming. It's about releasing, it's about reclaiming, and it's really about redefining you. So let me tell you a little bit about me. As mentioned, my name is Akua, although that isn't my, I would say, government name. Back in 2019, just before the throes of COVID, I took a beautiful spiritual trip to the motherland. And you'll find out a little bit more shortly, just in terms of knowing that I am somebody who loves to travel. Travel is what nourishes my soul. And to date, I have traveled to 86 countries, but I'll come back to that in a second. But in 2019, I took a trip to Ghana, and as part of that beautiful spiritual experience, which was somewhat also, confronting, as we know, our journeys or our ancestors' journeys were horrific. However, during that time, I felt like I was returning home and returning back to self in a way, really connecting with my ancestral roots. And I went down to the Ashanti region, and there I was invited to have a beautiful naming ceremony. And that naming ceremony really started off with me being wrapped in the beautiful Adinkra Ghanaian cloth, a beautiful head wrap and everything. And then I had one of the elders from the village. So we had the village chief and all of the elders there, but I had one of the elders literally come and wash my feet as part of that beautiful ceremonial naming ceremony. And then there were the drums, the beautiful beat of the African drums, man. And really, I felt like they were calling all of our ancestors just to welcome me and name me my, rightful given name, which was Akua Bahama. And Akua means helper and leader. And Bahama was the name of, I guess, the village name. So I sort of took on the name of the village where the naming ceremony happened. And that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And it wasn't like I returned back to my corporate job, which I'll share a bit more about at the time, and said, hey, everyone call me Akua. No, it was just that I returned back and I recognized that I'd just gone through something very special. And it was something that I'd never forget. And then the throes of COVID came literally a few months later. And that really was, I guess, the start to what really changed my life in a way that I could never even anticipate. And that led me to leave a career in HR of over 25 years, nearly 30 years, a prestigious job as a HR leader. So I was the deputy chief of people and performance at NYU, New York University. They have a campus here in Abu Dhabi where I currently live and have been living for the last 12 and a half years, living my best life, I must say, right now. And ultimately, here I am, the founder and co-adventurer of Dreamcatcher Global. And how did that happen? So COVID came, and like a lot of us, like all of us, I guess, there was a little bit more time, or a lot more time perhaps, to really think about what was most important in our lives. And there was this kind of storm brewing like all over the world, and we were in this time when everything was changing. And then I got the news from home, which is the UK, where where I was born and where my family lived. My mum, who's Jamaican, and my father, who's Jamaican, had left the island when they were children to come to live in the UK. And I got news that my mum was actually in hospital, and that she had caught COVID, and that she was one of those individuals who wasn't supposed to make it because of all of her own underlying health conditions. So you can imagine, it's COVID, we're literally locked down. This is in March 2020. No flights, there was a lot of quarantining. I couldn't even leave my apartment at that point in time. I lived on my own, and literally, the world felt really eerily quiet. But like, I felt so powerless to know that my mum, my amazing mum, was in hospital. I was told that she probably wouldn't make it, and that I had to prepare myself for the absolute worst, and that if she were to pass away, that I wouldn't even be there to, attend her funeral. And that was just the worst feeling. But let me just say, my mum is here today. After 32 days, she walked out of that hospital. In fact, she was clapped out of that hospital. Because again, she wasn't supposed to make it, but she did. And that gave me a lot to think about, because I know that deep down, although on paper you could say that I had all of the trappings of success, right? I had this HR leadership job, a tax-free salary, lived in a beautiful apartment on a beautiful island in Abu Dhabi, was able to travel, literally anywhere in the world because I had the financial means to do so. But you know what? Inside, I was absolutely unhappy, so unhappy. I mean, on the outside, it was like I wore a mask every day, showing up as somebody who was strong, independent, fierce, successful. And I say successful, it was the world's definition of success. I felt like I wasn't living my own life. I was living the life of someone else. I was living the life of all of the expectations of perhaps family, societal conditioning, all of those things that we're told we should be from the moment that we're born. And I felt stuck. I felt almost trapped in like a golden cage. And there was a lot of fear around changing that. And I knew for sure that I didn't want to just go and get another job and still remain in HR. I knew that given the fact that with my mum's situation, and that tomorrow isn't promised to any of us, and that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it now. And at that point as well, I was 15. I'm like, you know what, I've got to do it. I can't keep waiting and putting this off. I have to make that leap of faith, and I have to somehow try and navigate this relationship that I have with fear. And so, given it was COVID, there was an opportunity for me to really start to go inward, to really work on myself. And that really started with meditation. And meditation I tried many times before, but I tried again, and I tried, I think I started at about 1 minute. And then there was journaling, which again, I tried many times before. I bought books and read books on journaling, but I could never be consistent. But I just thought, I'm going to give it a go. And what really helped me as well was an amazing book that I read at the time by somebody called Hal Elrod, and it's called The Miracle Morning. And so I ended up creating this miracle morning, which involved meditation, which involved journaling, and also some reading. And that was 5.5 years ago. And I am still doing that practice to today. And honestly, it's been one of the most transformative journeys of my life. And with that being said, that also allowed me the time to think about what is it that I wanted to do. If I'm going to leave my career in HR and do something, it has to do something that I'm absolutely passionate about. And I knew that it probably was time for me to actually go it alone, right? To step away from that security of that monthly paycheck and actually create my own business. And again, could you imagine the fear around that? I have been used to my entire working life a monthly paycheck, and now I'm literally going to be stepping into the unknown. And there was a huge fear around, how am I going to earn money? What am I going to do? And that wasn't just my fear. It was also a fear that was projected on me by other people, because that's what we're driven by, right? It's money. And that's what drives a lot of the fear, is if I don't have money, how am I going to survive? So a lot of that, means that money keeps us somewhat stuck. And so I really had to sit with myself, and I really had to find a way to recognize that anything is possible, and that there was this real pull for me to make this move, and that pull felt like something deep within my soul, and like my intuition, and it felt like I needed to actually listen to this. I felt like actually that I've been hearing that, or well, that's been calling me for years, but for the first time it felt like I was actually listening. So I took the time to surround myself using Zoom at that point. Now Zoom come in and it allowed people to connect from all over the world. And I got connected with a lot of kind of entrepreneurial women through just workshops, groups, and masterminds like this one. And I got a lot of inspiration. I got a lot of practical help, and I knew then that this was what I had to do. So I had to think about the two things, or the things that I was passionate about, and there were two things that basically, were there. One was my passion for people. So as somebody who's been in HR for a number of years, I'm there because of the people. I'm really there because I really want to support the humans in the aspect of human resources. And then, of course, travel. So with me and my extensive travels, traveling off the beaten track, traveling to far-flung places, was like, how can I combine those two things to create a beautiful business that could actually be of service to others? And so I thought about my own story of feeling stuck, and I recognized that, wow, there must be so many women out there who are feeling somewhat paralyzed by fear, fear of the unknown. And of course, the unknown is something that hasn't even happened yet. But again, it's a lot of that comes from conditioning and the stories that we may have inherited, and the expectations that we, feel like we need to adhere to and we need to follow and take on. And then all of the roles and responsibilities that we play. And, my thing is really about women. I think about women, and I think about all the hats that we wear, mother, wife, leader, sister, all of these roles. And somewhere along the line, we've kind of forgotten about ourselves. So for me, through this journey of recognizing that I was unfulfilled, I realized that I really had lost myself. And this journey wasn't about me just leaving the corporate world and starting a business, but actually at the heart of this journey, it was really about finding me, coming back to self, and really like understanding, who am I really? Because I'm not just a HR leader. I'm not just a sister. I'm not just an aunt. I'm somebody so much more deeper, and I really want to find and connect that person. And what I recognized is that that person has always been there. But, when I use the analogy, say, of an onion, somewhere along the line, probably in early childhood, we come here as children, we're in this world free, and, everything, we're in awe of everything. And then somehow we start to see the way that we're supposed to act. And we take on, this acting role, so to speak, because, our family tell us this is the way we're supposed to be. Then we go to school, and again, there's another authority telling you how you should be, and then that goes through to college, university, and workplace, and before you know it, it's just like, who am I? And for me, that's where unbecoming comes into it, because unbecoming really isn't about becoming someone. It's about unbecoming all of those things that you were told you should be to become who you truly are. And so as I, leaned into what felt right, leaned into my passions, I knew that, I had to create something that was all about helping women to transform their lives, and using travel as a catalyst to do that. So fast forward, I created a company called Dreamcatcher Global, and I wanted it to be called Dreamcatcher because for me, a lot of this was about helping women to realize, even before that, to remember what their dreams were, right? Before they took on all of these responsibilities and these roles, what were my dreams? And also recognizing and letting women know that it's never too late. At 50, I made this move, and honestly, the last nearly 4 years have been the best 4 years of my life. And it hasn't been easy. Don't get me wrong, life has been lifing, and that's what happens in life. Lives, right? But it's the way that you respond, and it's really about remembering your why. So with Dreamcatcher Global, I ultimately take women on outer adventures and inner journeys. And when I think about the way that I traveled, that really helped me to recognize that I could do this, that I could leave this career, that I could leave my job. Because when I travel, I tend to push myself out of my comfort zone. I tend to do things that when I'm doing them, like for example, climbing a volcano somewhere in like Cape Verde, and I'm looking back and it's just like, oh my God, and I look back and I see how far I have, climbed. And then I look up and it's just so far to go. And then there's a part of me that becomes pretty much petrified. And then I start cursing myself and say, woman, what are you doing? You're crazy, you're crazy. And really I can't turn back now, it's too late. And then when I finish, there's this real sense of empowerment, like, wow, I did that. If I can do that, I can do anything. And that really for me was the catalyst that allowed me to look at fear differently, to change my relationship to fear and recognize that fear can really be a catapult to allow you to move forward in your life, as opposed to stagnation and keeping you stuck. And so, I want to create these beautiful retreats, which I do. I create these retreats where, as I said, I take these women on outer adventures and inner journeys, and I literally help them and nudge them just a little bit out of their comfort zone. So I'm not taking these women to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. No, it's not about that, but it's really taking them away from everything that is familiar to something unfamiliar. And what I found during my retreats is that honestly, I'm bringing women, and particularly Black women, in spaces that were not ordinarily seen. But there is this power in that. There is this sense of, really recognizing who you are and how different you are, but also recognizing that there is this kind of shared common understanding among women around the world, particularly when, I take a group of women, say, to India, for example, to the Himalayas, in which I did most recently at the end of last year. And they were all Black women. And oh my God, it was the most amazing experience. We ended up, in the river, singing by the rivers of Babylon. It felt so, so, so powerful. So I like to create these spaces that allow women to feel safe, that allow women to really go on an inner journey and come back to themselves. So they're away from all of the distractions of family, of work. And this is their time. This is self-care, serious self-care. This is their time to put themselves first. Because as we know, as women, we don't put ourselves first. We ultimately are conditioned to putting ourselves last. And that's part of the role that we play. And part of this journey of unbecoming is changing that entire narrative and recognizing that the most important journey that you have is the journey with yourself. And so I've really talked quite a lot right now, and I want to kind of pause for a moment and give you some time to sort of take all of that in. But I also want to ask you, to truthfully kind of lean into this question and reflect on it a bit. Now, the question is, are you living as you? Are you living a life that feels true to you? Take a minute just to think about that. And I say that and because as mentioned before, and I literally wore so many masks, and I think a lot of us wear masks, and sometimes we wear them for so long that we forget that they're even there. And with this journey of unbecoming, it really is about unpeeling that onion layer. So, at the very core of that onion, as I was saying before, and is you, who you were, who you came onto this beautiful planet as. And then unfortunately, over time, with all of the conditioning from family, society, everything, right? Educational conditioning, you then have these layers that are wrapped around that core. And before you know it, you're this onion with all of these layers, and you don't even remember who that person is at the very center of that onion. And unbecoming is really about shedding. It's about releasing. It's about letting go of all of those expectations, of all of those stories. And that really is a way to kind of come back to self and actually to come back to power. And I just love that I do that. And I also, as part of my career, have been a coach, and I've taken my coaching into what I do now at Dreamcatcher. So my retreats aren't just about these adventures. They're really sacred spaces that allow for connection, that allow for cultural education, that allow for community. Like, we go on these retreats and we're not just in this, luxury villa all the time. We really get to connect with the local communities. We engage with a lot of women groups. We go to schools, we go to hospitals. We really want to have an opportunity to feel like this is a really deeply immersive experience. And, we really get to connect. And I think that's so, so important. And connect not just with the people that we come into contact with, but connect with ourselves, which is the most important, and also connect with the amazing women. And I'm very much mindful about making sure that I curate the right space. So my retreats are by application only. And my next one coming up in September is in Zanzibar, and you can find out more information on my website. But yeah, exciting. I try to at least once a year to choose somewhere in the motherland. And with that being said, what I want to also share now is a beautiful, beautiful collaboration with Natalia Nicholson, the founder of Women in Digital Business. Her and I have collaborated on a beautiful retreat back to the motherland in Ghana next year, March. And it goes back to, legacy. It really goes back to recognizing and reminding yourself where we are from, and connecting with the legacy, because it's so powerful when you know your roots and you really know where you're coming from. And it's going to be a 9-day retreat. And it's not just a cultural immersion, which is obviously very, very important, but it's a way to help, women leaders, women entrepreneurs really grow into a beautiful space. So it's myself and Natalia really combining our beautiful skills to create the most powerful workshops. And when I think about some of the things that we're going to do, they are just amazing. And I just want to sort of take to some of my notes here, just to make sure that I can give you a little bit of an idea. So it's going to be a 9-day retreat, as I said, and there are going to be, topics that include unmasking authenticity, because as mentioned beforehand, authenticity is the most powerful thing that we need. It's where we really are able to execute all the things in life that we need. When we really are our true selves, magic happens. Also reclaiming our roots, right? Absolutely, no doubt. And that kind of reminds me about my own journey of going to the motherland, and now, being called Akua. And what I didn't say to you, actually, Akua is a Ghanaian name. And I really started to embody that name, once I had made that decision to leave the corporate world. I felt that this was an opportunity for me to step into a new beginning, and with that, a new name. And so, wow, there are only people out there who know me as Akua. Like, this name is embedded. Even my family now call me Akua, which is so beautiful, and a testament to them respecting and recognizing my own journey. And of course, going back to the Ghana retreat, we also have what we call redefining success. So if we think about it again, success, right? There is almost like a blueprint for what success means, and that is not something that we have designed, or we, have had any role in playing that. It's something that has kind of been thrust upon us, and so this is all about your own definitions of success, you rewriting that, you reclaiming it, and you being the master and the author of that, which is going to be simply amazing. And then, of course, building legacy, right? It's about making sure that the people that come after us, children, nieces, nephew, family members, that there's this kind of real legacy that will be left. And just to friends, like, what are we leaving behind? And then, of course, it's all about, celebrating our heritage, who we are. So it's going to be a beautiful 9-day experience. And what I do want to say as well is, we've called ourselves, the name of this retreat is She Wins, right? So it's She Wins, but it's really WINS as an acronym for winning, for innovating, and for navigating, and succeeding, and again, succeeding on our own terms. So there's a button that you'll be able to press on to find out more information about this amazing retreat. It's exclusive, so there are only a limited amount of spots. So if you want to find out more about all of the detail and the cost, please feel free to click the link, and please sign up on the wait list to make sure that your spot is going to be reserved. Ooh, so I've said quite a lot, but I want to come back to this journey of unbecoming, because as I mentioned to you, this is a journey that I've been on, and it is a journey, there is no destination, but it's been the most powerful journey for me yet. And here I am now, a retreat creator, a transformational coach, an international speaker. I have some speaking engagements in Dubai next week, or this week I should say, tomorrow and Wednesday. And then in April, I'm off to Valencia in Italy in Spain, I beg your pardon, to actually talk. So, when you really step into your truth, doors open and magic starts to happen. And that's really, really important, because I think when we are wearing these masks, we're not necessarily living in our truth, right? We're living somebody else's truth. And it takes courage to step away from that and to really lean into your own authenticity and to really make a choice and say that I'm choosing me. And it goes back to the fact that sometimes, as women, we often are concerned around particularly being judged if we don't put others first and before us. But we've got to change that narrative, man. We've got to realize that, self-care isn't selfish, is absolutely necessary. And we need to find those moments for ourselves, whether that's through, taking time away on beautiful retreats where you get to connect with other women, or it could simply be just going for a walk. It could simply be just creating this space for yourself so that you get to breathe, so that you can get to feel, who you are, that you get to remember that I am not just a list of labels and roles, but actually I am at my core. So with that being said, I just want to share a few more things with you. I am currently writing a book. I'm not going to disclose the name of the book yet, but when we finish up, I want to leave you an extract of the book, the first, excerpt that I'm actually sharing for the first time. So you are very, very privileged. But I really want you to sort of lean in and think about, questions that are really powerful questions, like, who are you living for? Are you putting yourself first? What is holding you back from being that badass woman that you can actually be? Because, a lot of that will be fear. And I think it's important for us to really lean into that and try and have a sense of where that fear is coming from. And sometimes that work you can do on your own. Often or not, sometimes people need a guide and support. And I'm somebody who, through my coaching, is really working with women to dispel some of those stories that they've told themselves, and to also, get rid of some of those limiting beliefs, because a lot of what we are holding on to, they're not real. They're really not real. Again, it's just things that we have heard, and over time they've become truth. And again, this is so important, why we need to find our own truth. So I just want to say thank you so much for showing up. I hope you have got a bit of an understanding about what it means to unbecome. And I hope there are some real things that you can perhaps go home and think about, and really see how you can elevate your life. And with that being said, I want to leave you with something from my book. I'm going to read it verbatim. So I'm going to pick up this piece of paper. And we may not have eye contact continually, but here it goes. And now I'm inviting you on this journey too. A journey of letting go, of stripping away the masks, of stepping into your truth, of learning that you are not what you do. You are not just the roles you play, the achievements you collect, or the expectations you carry. Beneath it all, there is a deeper you. The one who has been waiting to be seen, to be heard, to take up space. This isn't about fixing yourself or becoming someone new. It's about remembering the woman you were before the world told you who to be. before you were taught to shrink, to prove, to please. It's about reclaiming your voice, your joy, your freedom. Imagine, just imagine who you could become if you stopped trying to meet the world's expectations. Imagine, just imagine the power and peace that comes from living in full alignment with your true self. That's what unbecoming offers. The space to breathe, to be seen, and to finally become who you truly are.
Never up, never down.